Hello, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, depending upon where you are. Welcome to Industry Insider. My name is Matt Jones, and I am a director here at TrueCar. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much. And we want to also ask you really up front, please be sure to share this with your friends. This is something that we do every other Tuesday. I'm sure people on the call are pretty familiar with us, but I'd like to give you a little bit of introduction and a little bit of intro into what we're doing here at Industry Insider Dealer-to-Dealer Communications. This is one of the things that we are most happy about here at TrueCar and our communications team, our opportunity to bring some of the industry's best and brightest minds onto the show, ask them about what they're doing, hear their philosophies, tips, and tactics, and share it with the dealer body as a whole. Because TrueCar is here as a partner. We want to help everybody grow. We want to make this process better for both the shoppers and the dealers as well. It's a little bit of background on Industry Insider. My name is Matt Jones. I've been in automotive for about 20 years, and I'm the director of the communications team. Now, if you want any more information on Industry Insider, if you want to see some of our past shows, our previous shows, or read some of our insights, please visit our dealer blog at truecar.com/dealer blog. Now, let's talk today a little bit our special guest, and this is somebody I'm very excited to have on our show. Our guest is Dustin Walters, and he's the vice president and COO of the Friendship Automotive Group. It's a big dealership in the Tennessee, North Carolina area. They have 15 stores over 4 states. And this dealership is known for having a great reputation in their market for offering exceptional customer service. But more broadly, they are known as being one of the best groups in the industry to work for if you're going to sell cars. And actually, they were recently awarded the #1 dealership in the nation to work for. So that's what they're going to be talking about, creating a fantastic environment for your employees and the benefits that actually has for the store and its customers. So with no further ado, I'd like to bring on Mr. Dustin Walters.
Hey, how you doing, Matt? Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you for taking the time, to spend a couple minutes with us on the show. Thank you so much. How is everything?
Man, everything's great. Everything's great. The leaves are changing. It's fall here. It's beautiful in the mountains of Tennessee. And I wish everybody could experience where we live because it's a beautiful place and we're proud to be from where we are. So it's great to be here, and thanks for having me, and excited to share what we do, and hopefully we get some feedback, and I'll learn a few things too.
Well, that's always the goal. I mean, we're serious about trying to make sure that everybody's better, and especially in these particular times where we're having challenges that I don't think a lot of us have a playbook for. I don't think anybody was quite prepared for 2020. And so anything that we can do as a company to bring more insights and more value to the dealer body is super appreciated. And right now, it's particularly important to talk about employee retention. Employee retention has always been a concern throughout our industry. We're an industry known for having high turnover. But now the stores are starting to run with leaner teams because of environmental factors. Having a good employee base is more important than ever. It's almost crucial because you can't rely on just having a whole bunch of people to make sure the problem's solved. You have to have a select right few. And so that's why I was so excited to have you on here, because getting the awards that you've gotten, best dealership group to work for, I think, how many times have you guys gotten this since 2011?
Oh, I think if you combined all the stores, we've passed 30 times. So that's been a pretty cool. We're very proud of it. It's an employee scorecard too. So it's something that's totally taken by them. So that's the thing that means the most to us, is it's true feedback.
And, I feel comfortable saying that a store can win once, or a store can win twice, or a group can win once, or a group can win twice. 30 times though, that's not accident. That is a process. That's a process. It's a philosophy. It's deliberate. And we wanted to talk about that. And you guys were recently awarded the #1 best dealership in the nation to work for. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, our Chrysler store in Tennessee, and it's a couple years back that's happened. #1, that was a big surprise. I mean, obviously, we're just super honored to be in the top 100 and able to go to the meeting where we get to meet the other dealers and have roundtable discussions. But to win #1, that was just like a total shock. I mean, couldn't have dreamed it even better. So,
well, that's a fantastic achievement. On behalf of TrueCar, my hat's off to you. Thank you. So before we really jump into the tactics of how you've earned and created such a wonderful environment, I want to learn a little bit about you. Tell me and tell the people who are watching a little bit about Dustin Walters, his journey into automotive, a little about your background.
Okay, so it kind of goes pretty far back. My great grandmother was a Chevy dealer in Hebron, Ohio. Very small town, about an hour east of Columbus, and Jacktown, Hebron. If you're from that area, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, you have no idea where I'm talking about. But then it was later. My grandfather ran it, and my dad worked there in service, and he went to Northwood University, which is a car school up in Michigan, and moved down to Tennessee. There's a legendary story with a pregnant wife, a broke leg, and $72 in his pocket, and started selling cars for Bill Gatton Chevrolet in Bristol, Tennessee, in 1976, and slowly worked his way up into management, and kind of grew his portfolio and his store, and got a piece of one store, and then finally went on his own and got his own franchise with an open point for a Ford franchise in 1993. So that was our first store, was Friendship Ford of Bristol, 93. And obviously, I'm young, I'm pulling weeds, washing cars from the age of, I started about 12 years old, I guess, washing cars, and, worked in parts department, learned the business a little bit, but moved away, went to college, played baseball, did the whole thing with that everybody does. You sow your wild oats, right? So come back home and got in the car business, got a job at a Honda store that we were a partner with. And actually, I never I asked everybody, if you're going to hire me, don't tell Mitch, who's my father. I go, just don't tell him. I want to see if I really like this side of the business. And I was able to sneak around for a couple of months and sell some cars, and obviously fell in love. Got that first commission check. And as a college student sharing a house with about 5 other guys, you get a pretty good check. I mean, it might as well be $1 million at that time. So I was in love with that part of the business, and continued to grow. We had an opportunity to get a Hyundai franchise in 2001. And back then, Hyundai wasn't the most sought after brand, nowhere near what it is today. And so being young and not knowing any better, I wanted the opportunity to run this new Hyundai franchise, and by the chances that nobody else wanted it, I got the job and kind of started from there. So we literally had buckets for seats. We had no showroom. We were building it, and we started off and just never looked back. And since then, we've been able to grow it. We've added several franchises in Forest City and in the Boone, North Carolina area, some motorsports stores in Savannah, Georgia, and Bristol, Virginia, and some used car lots, and Volvo. And just continue to grow and grow. And, that's in our DNA, is growth. We just want to continue to get better. And, it's really about affording other people opportunities. At this point, is what can we do to provide and find the right leadership and talent to help them grow and continue to grow the brand. So, and I guess I don't think I missed anything.
So, one of the things that you said recently, just at the end, really, really resonated with me, is like, now it's about creating opportunities for other people. And that's why one of the reasons some of us are so passionate about TrueCar is because some of us at TrueCar are so passionate about the automotive industry, is because of the opportunity it affords people. It's kind of like, almost like a metaphor for the American dream. If you go in there, you can go in there with not a whole lot necessarily to start. But if you're smart and you're tactical and you're strategic and you work, you can create something for yourself, as your family did, and as other families are going to.
I don't know many industries like that. I mean, you totally control your own destiny, and your work ethic and your ability and the things that you want to put on the table. And I mean, your paycheck is directly reflected of what you've done every week, what you personally have produced, and I think that's something special about that. It gives everybody an opportunity.
I certainly agree with it. So before we get too far into it, let's what we want to focus on is that perfect employee experience that you guys have seemingly created. So let's start at the very beginning. Let's talk about, how do you get these employees? What's your recruitment for this employee process like, or for getting these folks into your stores?
Gosh, Matt, I mean, that is $1 million question right there is, where do you find the talent, right? Where do you find the people? And, I think ultimately what you have to do is inherently people have good in them and they want to do good and they want to be better. You have to provide them with the tools and the knowledge and the experience to get to that point. I don't think that there's very many that we can just hire off the street and then plug and play and then everything's great and that they're just killing it from day one. That just doesn't happen. So I think you got to look for certain qualities in people. I love when people have played sports. I love when people have a military background. I love that they're coachable or they're able to develop or listen. I love that if they have good communication skills, because I think that 99% of the world's problems are because of lack of or bad communication. I think everybody's heard that before. So if they have certain traits and certain characteristics, the rest of it's up to us to help develop them and help them be successful.
So you say development. So what is one of the things that I always like to ask people about is, what kind of training programs do you provide? Do you have like an onboarding or a new hire training? Or the reason I asked this question, when I got hired into the automotive industry, I was shown how to do a Foursquare, and I was shown how to keep quiet when I was writing the appraisal for their trade-in, and that training took about 7 hours or so, and then it was get out there. Right?
Yeah. Good luck, right?
Good luck. I always want to hear it from people who are doing exceptionally well. What is your onboarding training like, or your recent hire training?
So onboarding, I think one of the things that I like to see the best in our stores is that it's a family, that we all know everybody and that we all know what they do and can appreciate what they bring to the table. So one of the first things we do when we're onboarding is you're required to work in every department in the store. No matter what you are hired for, you're going to start in reconditioning. You're going to clean some cars. You're going to vacuum them out. And, that way when you're later on, if you're selling cars and you go up there and you say, hey, I need this to be done in 30 minutes. And the guy's like, I can't do that. And what we're trying to do is set expectations of what other people do. So when you've done that job and you have an appreciation for what it takes to do that job, you don't ask things that are not realistic. So then they'll go into the parts department, work there a little bit, in the service drive, BDC, administration, really get to know everybody. So the other thing is, it's like, hey, when you see somebody walking in the service department from the front of the house or from sales, they're like, who's that guy? You're like, well, that's Matt Jones. He's cool, man. I worked with him for 2 days. He's a Titans fan and he loves football. He likes to do this. And so, everybody in the store, and there's not that unfamiliarity or that uncomfortableness. And I think that's one of the most important things to me, is to build culture, is that everybody knows everybody and everybody understands what jobs they do, what they can expect when they're asking from some other things. So another thing that we do is called a good to great meeting. And that happens within the first month that you're hired. And it's all stores come to our corporate office, and they have a roundtable meeting. And Mitch holds the meetings, and he explains what it means to work here, why maybe we have a little bit more expectations than other places. Sets the expectation that, hey, this is not going to be the easiest place to work. We're going to require and ask more of you than other places might. And so, he follows the Good to Great philosophy, the book by Jim Collins. There's a lot of things in there. We have servant leadership that we practice, which is, I got right here. If you've seen the pyramid where the CEO, the president's up here, and then everything goes down. Well, our servant is just basically, we flip it upside down, and we say these people right here are going to support all of the other team members in the team, and the ones on the bottom are the ones that are going to support the guys up here. These are the ones that are making it happen.
That's a fantastic philosophy.
So we talk about school buses. That's kind of strange, right? So the Friendship School Bus.
Okay, tell me about that.
We want to make sure that you're on the right seat on the bus. Not everybody is cut out to sell cars. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is cut out to be an accountant. but everybody has certain talents, and we want to make sure that, hey, you've got good, a lot of good traits. You're honest, you're hardworking, you're capable. Are you on the right seat on the bus? And if not, let's find that seat. Let's make sure that we're putting you in the best place that you can be in to succeed. So I think with that meeting and kind of setting the expectation and kind of setting some things up that what we're looking for, it helps clear the air a little bit. And that, and working with your teammates and knowing what everybody does. Those are a couple things on our onboarding, maybe that set us apart a little bit. I don't know. That's something different, but we try to do that just to set the stage.
I think what's really important about that, is, again, I really love when people are deliberate about what they're doing. They're not just hiring somebody. Isn't this just perfunctory thing to just, fill up another spot? I get the impression that when you're investing this type of time and energy into an employee, not only are you making them more well-rounded by showing them the entirety of the store, but you're also showing that this is not just a fly-by-night job. This is not something that we're taking lightly or that we expect you to take lightly. This is something we're investing in you. And laying down clear expectations is also something that I don't think our industry has always done a very good job of, with the exception of, here's how many units you have to sell to hit your bonus, and here's what we want from CSI. And those are very clear directions, but how to act, how to understand, how to relate to people from every part of the store, I don't think that we do a good job. So I have to applaud you for that. It sounds like a fantastic onboarding, a great way to start an introduction to an industry. From an ongoing training, you said that you have your weekly good to great meetings, or did you say it was weekly or monthly?
No, the original good to great is just for an onboarding.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what about ongoing training? Does your team take part in ongoing training as well? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, sure, absolutely. No, that's the most important thing we do. Is train. You got to sharpen your skill set. Like you said, though, this is a career. This is something that we want to take serious. We build upon it. It's not a summer job. It's not something that we are going to just do for a month or two and then see what else is out there. I think if you look back in the decades ago, it was considered more of a career than maybe some people do now. And I think that we want to have that mindset. So we look at the follow-up that we do. We want to make sure that our customers become loyal to us because they know us. We do Christmas cards. We do talk about anniversaries. I encourage people that if they see their customer, it's got something in the newspaper, to cut the clipping out of the newspaper and mail it to them. Say, hey, congratulations. That was awesome to see you in the paper. Just having little things like that just bonds you together even more, creates that retention, whether it's for employees or for customers, and binds them to that store and that salesperson. As far as training, just last week we had a fun contest. We did a walk around contest at every store, and then the winners of each store came to Bristol at our home office, and they went at each other for another contest, and we had prizes for all of the winners. And it was the cool thing that out of all of the walk arounds, everybody took something home from each walk around that they weren't incorporating in their own, and they were learning from each other. And the contest was actually judged by their peers. So yeah, it wasn't like I'm sitting here with a checklist going, hey, you missed this part, but it was judged by the peers, and it was fun. It was an awesome opportunity. We had some guys that had only been in the business a couple of months that out of sheer energy and enthusiasm got to where they were and just did a great job. And then we had some guys that were so smooth that had participated in regional and bigger walk around contests and things like that done well. But that was a fun training event. But no, we have to do it daily. Kyle Disher, we use his platform with Webinar Inc. He's got a great set of videos, and they're anywhere from 2 minutes to 5 minutes. I mean, 2 minutes a day. Who can't do that?
Right.
His videos are just amazing. If you haven't seen that, it's a really cool tool too, as well.
It's so interesting that you say Kyle Disher. My boss, Kerry Weiss, the VP of the communications team, Kyle used to work for Kerry.
Really?
Kyle used to work for Kerry on the training team, and it's just fantastic. It's a small world sometimes, isn't it?
I always call him the hardest working man in the car business. He is everywhere. I never know if he's going to be in Asia or East Tennessee. So he's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Kyle is just fantastic. He's just so amazing, with keeping such great content out there and snackable and easy to use. And I'm really glad to hear that you're using the Webinar Inc. stuff. It's fantastic. So you've got the ongoing trainings, and the trainings sound like more than just, take a course. It sounds like it's hands-on, peer-reviewed. It sounds like there's a little bit of fun. Now, and I'm really happy to hear that. Now, do you take any influence or inspiration from outside industries and bring them into automotive, or do we just think of this as like an automotive-focused, kind of learning process?
No, I mean, listen, there's no new good ideas. We take something from everywhere and everybody. I mean, I remember listening to the Sewells out of Texas at a seminar, and they have something called the Friendship, or they call it something different. We call it the Friendship Family Fund. Once we stole their idea and implemented it here, but it's simply a thing that we do that everybody participates in. It can be a very, very small amount. It can be a large amount. It can be whatever you want. But every a couple dollars of your check every week goes into a fund.
Okay.
And it's combined all in for anybody that needs it for an emergency, or any kind of need that the family has been in, whether their house burned down or they need to go to a hospital and a large children's hospital that's not in a town near us, and they need to fly and they can't afford plane tickets, or any sort of issue that's out of their control. We really try to help give a little boost, a lending hand. And it's not friendship. It's the team members of friendship. That's what makes it special. It's not something we're doing. It's something that everybody's participating in to help each other out. That's an idea that we've stole. But I mean, that's an automotive company. Obviously, you can look around at some of the billion-dollar industries of Google and Amazon and see what they do. And sometimes it's just not feasible. I mean, would I like to have a state-of-the-art gym facility for everybody to work out in every dealership that we have? That would be so cool. But we can't really do that. So a lot of the things we do, we try to scale it to what fits our needs or our budget. We do reimburse for gym memberships, for weight loss programs, things like that, because we want to encourage people to be healthy. For us, selfishly, does it help on insurance premiums? Absolutely.
Sure.
But also we want healthy, active team members that are at work and not homesick, and doing little things like that can hopefully just help just a little bit.
See, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with a win-win situation like that. I mean, the benefit for the employee and the benefit for the employer. And what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dustin, but I think I got this kind of right, is that you're creating an environment that people can learn and they can thrive, but you're also creating an environment that seems very personal. I mean, it doesn't seem like from what I'm hearing, I don't get the impression that employees are just walking around at some place that they work. It's something that they're vested in. Is that one of the goals?
I think so. I mean, it's called the Friendship Family of Dealerships, and that's one of the reasons why. It's now, does every employee grasp it all the time and feel that way? Absolutely not. But
right.
We have tons of team members that are totally vested in friendship and want to do everything they can for us to be successful. And it's passionate, and they care about it. And, blood, sweat, and literally tears sometimes to make sure things go right. We do. We're blessed beyond measure with people like that. And so that, creating that culture where it's a family and that we're all in this together, and, work is hard enough. Life is hard enough. 2020, I'm going to spend more time in this office, this week than I will at home. So we want to make sure that we support each other, and we're doing some things that help each other get through and succeed. And it's a Herculean effort to get everybody on the same page, but we're trying our best, and we couldn't be blessed with better team members. So
let's talk about your team members. Like, do you have a pretty good retention rate? I would imagine that you would. What's your employee retention like?
I would love to say that it's the best in the world, but it's not. I think what you'll find is you have that top. There's almost like three tiers of what do you call it, upper management, middle, and lower. And I always look at them in those segments because the upper tiers, usually you don't have very little to zero turnover. It just doesn't happen. They've been with us. They've got tenure. They've got a lot of reasons not to leave. They want to stay. They've invested many years of their lives. 25 years, some of these, and even more. But we've only been open 27, so we've been since day one. Had several people, but the middle ones were really pretty strong. The bottom ones it's that revolving door of the bottom ones that we always try to focus on. And the only way that I know how to do that is to be picky. Is to be picky when we're hiring. It's to really try not to just say you're hired.
Right.
Let's put them through the rings a little bit. I want to meet their family. Bring your wife in here. Let me talk to her. Let me see what she thinks about you. Let me see if she likes you as much as we do. Then maybe we have a good fit. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, I think if you have the right leaders in your stores, things I've seen it firsthand. If you have the right leaders, things are so much smoother, and they build that team. They help build that culture because you have to have that day-to-day support and that day-to-day consistency of a person that's got the best interest of you and what your success is. And without the right leader, it's tough. It's tough to have this culture or that development happen.
Absolutely. Now, I want to shift gears just a little bit because, I talk to people all the time who are outside automotive. When I feel that I've met somebody who might be a good fit in automotive, and if I think that they're working in a job that perhaps they're not making the most getting the most financial reward for their time based on the industry that they're working at, I sometimes suggest to people, hey, you could probably take this skill set, go right across the street to the dealership that's across the street, and chances are you can have a similar schedule, but probably make exponentially more money. But what I hear back is they don't consider automotive because of the long hours or the uncertain pay, or it's not so much the negative stereotype of what salespeople are anymore. That's what was a big factor in 2001 when I got into the business. But how do you overcome that with this new crop of younger generation or people not familiar with our industry who say, I don't necessarily know if I want to jump in because of the hours and the pay. Do you guys have any processes around, handling that hurdle for hire?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So when you're looking for people, and we talked earlier about how hard it is to find new talented people and people that you want to join your team. And when you look at other industries, somebody that may be seemingly successful, whether it's in the restaurant industry or in real estate, or has some like a government type job that we've been doing it a long time, their fear is the uncertainty of hours and pay. Mm-hmm. And we've tried to address both of those. So I can look at a guy that says, let's say he's making X number of dollars where he's at right now, and we really like him. I can guarantee him a certain percentage. Say, hey, listen, try this out for a year. I'm going to guarantee you that you're going to make 80% at the very minimum of what your last year's W-2 was. That's something that gives some hey, I can try this. I can see what to do.
Yeah.
On another level, we have non-commissioned sales. So it's the fluctuation is for the non-commissioned salespeople is like, I know I can plan my budget based off of how many cars I sell. Right. So the days where the minimums were $100 or whatever it is when you sold a car are gone. Obviously you could have made more commission on deals that you made more, but it levels all that out. At the end of the day, when we did A/B testing on it, our commission versus our non-commissioned sales, they were the same. They averaged the same. So, and that's not by accident. I mean, that's just, we knew what the math was on that. And so that gives people some sort of comfortability. We introduced flex schedules during March when all this COVID virus started happening, which was allowing teams. You could have a teammate. You could have flex schedules where you work 4 days a week, off 3, kind of like they do in some factories. Just different kinds of shifts. But some of our best team members came from other industries and made what they thought might not even have been a lateral move. They were already doing pretty well, pretty successful. And we were able to give them some comfort and give them some things that lessen the mystery of what it's going to be like when they go to automotive. Listen, the hours aren't as bad as people think. They really aren't. If you've worked in a restaurant, which I have, they're there on holidays, they're there on weekends, they're there late. You got to clean up afterwards. It's not. That's a much. I was in the golf industry. You don't get a holiday off in the golf industry. You never do. So, I mean, there's worse places you could be. That's for sure.
Yeah, but addressing it and addressing the concern of pay, I think that's really important. It lays on a lot of people's minds, as we both know, as like reasons why the industry doesn't get consideration for employment. And I'm really glad to hear what you guys are doing. But I want to touch on something that you had said, is that your teams are, not all of them are commission based. So let's talk about the pay structure. You don't have to give exacts, right? But are they based on like hourly or on units or something like that? Or how does it work if they're not being paid on commission?
Right. So it's a flat rate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's volume based, so you can have tiers, and then we have different areas where you can make little bonus dollars. Like, for instance, and it may change week to week. If we want to make sure that how many times are we going to have somebody pull into the sold lane after a test drive? How many times are we going to have the walk around done right in front of the showroom in front of everybody? Having control of that situation and looking at what we can do to enhance our closing percentages are the things that we would probably try to trigger little bonuses on. But ultimately, it's volume based, and they have tiers. If you go from 10 to 12 to 15 to 18, that might increase that flat rate more.
How does CSI play into this?
Huge. It's huge part of it. CSI is very, very important. So all the qualifiers on there have magnifiers on CSI. So, and that's for every employee. It's important for every employee in our store to hit CSI. There's not one employee that doesn't get a bonus or an incentive based off of CSI, because ultimately it's everybody's responsibility to make sure the customer's happy. I think is it Disney that has the 10-foot rule? If you're within 10 foot of a patron or a customer, that you check on them, make sure they're okay, they're doing okay. We try to do the same things here.
So we've got a pay plan that allows for people to understand, to plot out their course, right? If I sell X amount of cars, I can expect to make X amount of money this month, right? You said you've got a flex schedule. Some people are working 4 days on, 3 days off. That my brain almost popped hearing you say that. I think that's incredible. We still hear people talk in California, for example. We're open 7 days a week, so it's not uncommon to hear a salesperson say that that they're on their 15th day or 18th day or something like that. What about? I think I heard, if I understood this correctly, if I understood this correctly, I think some of your stores are one price.
Correct. That's
okay.
Correct.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't really want to call it one price, because what we do is we have internet value pricing. So basically, we use all the tools that we have necessary to make it as aggressively priced in the market as we can. So when you look at online and you're shopping, you're going to see us up there at the top. We're going to be one of the lower priced ones. A lot of times the very lowest, but not always. And when we deal with customers, the reason I don't like to call it one price is because we still want to have that flexibility. We still want to work, but our discounting has got to be less. I mean, it's got to be as close to our transaction price has got to be as close to our advertised price as possible. That's the goal. We want to advertise the best price we possibly can, feel comfortable with that, stand behind that. But also, real world, Matt, we got to have a little flexibility. If something happened, I want to be able to adjust that if I had to.
Right. But it's not going to be a $7,000 adjustment.
No, I can always. My friends call and want to, they want a deal on a car, and they see it online, and I go, "Hey, man, just a heads up, that price is pretty strong right there. I can go ahead and tell you that it's not. You're not going to get $3,000 off. It's not those days anymore." And I think customers are becoming more familiar with that. I think they're getting acclimated to not getting thousands of dollars off. If they're looking for that, they're probably going to go quite a few places and not get what they want.
And I was going to follow up question is like, how do you express this value proposition to your consumers? I mean, like, it sounds good. This is what the market says. My price is good. I'm in the lower pricing percentile. We're already pretty good. But the other part is making sure that the people who actually are buying the product are aware of this pricing program. So how do you share this with your consumer base?
So we do have printouts available from our pricing tool that gives you the whole subset of every car that they're looking at within however many miles you dictate. It's just the same car. You can say, hey, look, there's 15 cars just like this one within 100 miles. We're the lowest price and we have the lowest miles. So our value is there's two ranks. There's price rank and there's value rank. And you try to make sure you're aggressive in both of them. But we're able to print off things that are able to show them on a piece of paper, hey, here's what we're looking at. Here's why we're so already priced. Without that, it would be hard because you wouldn't have any visuals.
Right.
We have point of sale materials that explain IVP, internet value pricing, but that's just part of the story. The actual paper with all the other cars in that class in the area really help kind of make sense for the customer.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think, I'm not going to say a name, but I have a person that you and I both know who told a story once of buying a car from a dealership that was like, a singular price, kind of like yours was. But they didn't relay that message to her as she was preparing to buy the car. So it took some time, like when you're learning that right on the spot and you come from an environment where you're thinking, like your buddy said, hey, like you got to tell them you're not getting $3,000 off if you're thinking that's what's going to happen, but the message has to be relayed earlier. So does it play my friend did, our friend did buy the vehicle, but they were just kind of surprised that this was what the pricing model was because it was unique,
Right.
So sharing this, is this something, so do you put it on your website as a value proposition? Do you wait for people to just come into the store and experience it? Is it talked about offsite? Like, how do you go about relaying that info?
Well, you got to have a lot of training and word tracks on how to explain it and to explain it in a clear way. One of the things that I think is interesting is when we're in this business, we talk about things every day and it becomes just normal or habit. When you're talking to somebody outside of it, when I'm talking to internet value pricing to one of my friends, they have no idea what I'm talking about. You have to slow down. You have to talk about each point and why you do it. And then finally, it makes sense and it hits home. But along with that, we try to really deck out the showrooms with point of sale materials. We've got them on desks that talk about it. We've got banners in there that talk about it. So when you just say, hey, this is how we price our car, you can just point, hey, look at that big banner up there. That's look at this sign over here. That kind of hits the message home as well and reinforces what the salesperson is saying. So they're not just on their own on an island, just trust me, but we got all the material as well.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And as we all know, we got to make sense to our shoppers or it doesn't, it's going to get in the way of making a deal. Speaking of our shoppers, how do your customers, how do they generally respond to that? Once they understand the program and that they understand that you've got your IVP, how do they tend to respond to that type of pricing?
For the most part, I think it's acceptable. You're always going to have people that are going to be like, well, I think my car is worth this. And you try to find out why, how did you come up with that figure and give them supporting documents. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you can do all of the support you want, but they're here for a goal, right? They've got a reason they want to buy a car. They want to buy that car. They have a budget. They want to know what payments are. And 2 weeks later, they're not going to remember the price of the car, but they're going to remember their payment. So, right. If you can just help them feel comfortable in understanding that, hey, it is mostly about your payments for most people, not for everybody, but for most people. And we want to get you to the payment that you like and that you're comfortable with, and we got you in the right car. The salesperson, they're on the customer's team. From up front, they're saying, Matt, I'm not getting paid. If you paid $1 million for this car, or if you paid $10 for this car, I get paid the same. It doesn't matter. I just need to find the right car for you that meets your budget and that fits your needs for your family. That's it. So they've got that trust already. And it's just ultimately at the end of the day, it's not all about price. Price is like the number 8 reason people buy a car. But that you see all those stats on what all they do. So why can't we just work on those first 7 and build value in all those things? If we're priced aggressively as we are, it shouldn't be a problem.
I love it. I love it. So what we like to do on the show is we get the biggest and brightest minds like yours, and we hear about what they're doing exceptionally well. And actually, it sounds like you're doing a lot of things well. But if I were a new dealer, and I wanted to make sure that I was creating an environment that was friendly for my employees, and so I could, make them better, make them longer tenured, less turnover. Where would you suggest I start? If I were just a single point guy, I just got my first store, or gal, my first store, where would I start?
I honestly, you got to start with yourself. Okay, you got to say, hey, what kind of boss, what kind of dealer, what kind of leader am I? What kind of people do I want to have working for me? And let that tree grow from there. I mean, you look at all the things you can do, and some companies have a lot more resources and a lot more dollars available to make things, look and seem easy. But if you don't have the right leadership and you don't have good communication, it's never going to work. So I think that something that everybody can do, no matter if they're just a startup, small lot, or if they're huge, you got to look at your leaders, you got to look at yourself, and what example are you setting? And are you really walking the walk? Are you really providing the atmosphere that you want to be in and you want your team members to be in? I don't know how else to say it other than that, because that doesn't cost any money. That doesn't cost anything other than having the right attitude and mentally being able to bring it every day. And if you leave it all out on the field, man, there's no other questions you got to ask. So that's what I would say.
I love it. I love it. That answer, self-reflection. Be first and foremost, start with yourself. That's one of the best responses I've heard in the time I've been doing this show. And we've been doing this show. Prior to talking on the show, or prior to having you on, obviously we hadn't had much, conversation except for just setting this up. But after talking to you and hearing from your mouth, hearing the processes of, how your employees are brought on, how they're onboarded, how they're continually trained, the work environment that you've created for them, the cohesive family, and the environment that you put in the store, which I'm sure makes your consumers happy and make them rate you well. It's kind of easy to see why you guys have been done so well over the past, decade, as far as, great accolades for a great place to work, including the Chrysler stores wins. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. Did you have something you wanted to comment?
No, I was just saying thank you. That's an awful big compliment.
Well, you really do it. I mean, you deserve it. That the part of the goal of our show and these interactions is to make sure that everybody sees how good we can be if we're deliberate, if we're thoughtful, and sometimes if we stop learning just from ourselves what we learn from other people in the auto industry who are just knocking it out of the park. And as important as employee retention is, as important as keeping our customers happy is, it seems that we made the right choice by bringing you on. You've given us some fantastic information. So I really thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to leave? I know that I was going to keep you for 35 minutes. I'm already at 45, so I want to be respectful for your time. So we're going to wrap up soon. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with, the people who are watching, a small knowledge nugget to motivate them today?
No, just, listen, I'm available anytime. I want to be a resource. Obviously, I would like to pick other people's brains, and that's how we get where we've gotten. There's nothing that we've created on our own. It's all been from learning and reading and trying to be as good as we can be. And just appreciate the time, and I'm ready to go appraise a car.
Last thing. If somebody did want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
It's D. Walters. It's my first initial, last name, and that's at friendshipauto.com.
D. Walters at friendshipauto.com. You guys hear that? You can learn from the best directly. Just email D. Walters at friendshipauto.com, and he'd be happy to help you walk through your own processes. Mr. Walters, thank you so much for spending this Tuesday afternoon with me. I know it's a lot. I know it's later in the day for you, and thank you for taking this time. With your permission, I'm going to be one of those people that picks your brain. I have a couple other questions that I'll just ask you offline, but I really, really appreciate your time with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt.
And if you see Kyle before I do, say hi to him. Everybody on the show, thank you so much for this afternoon. Hanging out with Mr. Walters has just been fantastic. I think I'd like to share with you my biggest takeaway. And my biggest takeaway was you can create an environment for your salespeople and your staff that encourages them to grow, that encourages them to be the best that they can with their consumers We just have to be deliberate with it and start from the very beginning. Mr. Walter's beginning introduction on how employees are brought onto the system just sounds fantastic. For anybody who's on the show who'd like to learn more about TrueCar and learn about our TrueCar offerings for dealers, including our complimentary trade-in tools and our complimentary payment tools, please visit us at truecar.com/dealer. And again, I hope that you shared this with your friends and family in automotive, because the more people we can touch, the better we can make this industry for all of us. So thank you again for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks for a very special Industry Insider 2 weeks from now. Bye, guys.